After Ranvir left, Rudra and Sarika also went to their room. Anita came to Vaishali and warned her. You are Sunitha's sister. I am taking care of this. Otherwise, I would have kicked you out of this house. But don't cross your limits from now on. Otherwise, I won't even take care of that. Saying this, she left with Dadi. Now, only Vaishali's hand was left in the hall. She said that she wanted to put doubt on Mahi in everyone's mind. But here the matter was reversed. Ranvir came to his room. But Mahi was not seen anywhere in the room. He also looked in the balcony. Mahi was not there either. Then he heard the sound of water dripping from the washroom. Ranvir knocked on the door and said, Mahi, open the door. After saying this, when there was no sound from inside, Ranvir knocked on the door again and pushed the door slightly. Then the door opened. That means the door was not closed from inside. Ranvir opened the door and came inside. Looking at the scene in front of him, he felt a pain in his heart. Mahi was sitting under the flowing water. Don't touch me. You will also get dirty. He touched me. He has made me dirty. Mahi was blabbering to herself as if she was not in her senses. Looking at Mahi again, Ranvir felt as if someone had pierced his chest. He hugged Mahi. Mahi was still trying to get rid of him. She was blabbering to herself. Ranvir held her tightly. Mahi was not in her senses. Ranvir was trying his best to control her. Then Ranvir held Mahi's head from behind and placed his lips on her shivering lips. Ranvir was kissing her very softly. Mahi was trying to get rid of Ranvir. Then she calmed down. Tears were flowing from the corner of her eyes. In Ranvir's kiss, Mahi was feeling only love for herself. Ranvir was feeling only love for herself. When Ranvir felt that Mahi had calmed down, both were taking deep breaths. Mahi said softly, Ranvir. Ranvir closed his eyes and said, Tell me Mahi, I am listening. Mahi moved away from Ranvir and asked him, Will you leave me? Ranvir looked into Mahi's eyes and held her face in his palms and said, You are my life. And how can I keep my life away from myself? Mahi, if anyone tries to hurt you from now on, then remember, your Ranvir is always with you. You don't have to be afraid of anyone. Saying this, Ranvir kissed her forehead. Ranvir then said, Now you change quickly, I am outside. Mahi nodded her head and Ranvir came out of the washroom. He went to the closet room and changed his clothes and went to the balcony. Today, he was feeling very bad seeing Mahi's condition. Everyone at home was trying their best to make Mahi forget that incident and move on. And to a large extent, they succeeded in diverting Mahi's attention. But Vaishali ruined everything. Thinking this, Ranvir was getting very angry. Then he smoked a cigarette and started smoking. One by one, he smoked 5 cigarettes. Then the door of the room was knocked. Hearing this, Ranvir came to the room. He saw that Mahi was lying on the blanket. When Ranvir opened the door, Mahi was standing with a dinner trolley in front of him. A while ago, Ranvir asked Mahi and himself to bring dinner to the room. Mahi put dinner on the table and left. Ranvir came to Mahi and said, Mahi, let's have dinner and then go to sleep. Mahi refused and said, I am not hungry. You eat. Ranvir did not listen to him and picked him up and sat on the sofa. Then he started feeding him with his hands. At the same time, he was also eating. After eating, he put Mahi back on the bed. He washed his hands and came to the bed. He held Mahi close to his waist and kissed her on the neck and said, You just remember my feelings. Forget everything else. Mahi also hid her head in Ranvir's chest. And in a while, both were awakened by sleep. The next day was 10 in the morning. Today, on Sunday, Priya woke up late. She was not going to wake up yet. But her mother called her and forced her to wake up. Priya got up from the bed and came down. At this time, she was wearing shorts and a crop top. And her hair was completely scattered. She came down and said, Mom, why are you making noise early in the morning? Let me sleep today. It's Sunday. After saying this, she sat on the sofa again. The strength of her stomach spread. She looked at the sofa with her eyes wide open. Vedant was sitting on the sofa in front of her. Priya said, Oh God, I am dreaming now. After saying this, she turned her head to the other side and went to sleep. Then she realized that she was not dreaming. She jumped on the sofa and screamed, You! Are you really here? Vedant, who had been watching her for a long time, smiled and said, I think he is the one. Then Priya thought, did he come to complain about me to his mother? She quickly looked around. Her mother was not there. She quickly went to Vedant. She pulled his hand and said, Look, let's go outside and talk. Does anyone come home to complain about such a small thing? Now get up. Whatever the matter is, let's go outside and solve it. She was talking in her sleep. But how could Vedant move at all? Vedant quickly pulled his hand. Then Priya fell on his lap. Before she could get up from Vedant's lap, Vedant grabbed her by the waist. Priya tried to get rid of his grip and said, Leave it. If my mother sees, I don't care. Vedant said with a sad smile, Yes, let her see. Her daughter is sitting in the lap of her to-be husband. Then he said to her, By the way, you are looking very hot today. As soon as he said this, Priya looked at him with her eyes wide open. She pushed him and stood up. Then she took a deep breath and normalized herself. Then she pointed her finger at him and said, Look, now you are doing a little too much. And as far as the matter is, I punctured your car tire. In return, you puncture my scooter tire. That's it. And get rid of this matter. Priya was just saying that she should hold the breakfast tray in her hand. Her mother said, Priya, what is this way to come home and talk to the guest? Priya was shocked to hear her mother's voice. And said, No, Mom, I was just like that. By then, Priya's mother put the breakfast plate on the table in front. And set the cup of tea towards Vedanta. Son, don't mind her. Her childhood has not gone yet. Vedanta also smiled and held the cup of tea and said, Hey auntie, once you get married, everything will be sensible. Saying this, Vedanta took a sip of tea, looking at Priya, winked her one eye. So Priya looked at him with the eyes that would eat him. Priya's mother said in a serious tone, Yes, son, you are right. I also want to get a good boy. So I will make his hands yellow. Hearing her mother's words, Priya made a face and said, Mom, what is my age now? That you are bent on making my hands yellow and blue. Hey, now I have to complete my studies too. Hearing this, her mother said, Enough, let it be. In the name of studies, you get fever. Every year you pass somehow. Hearing her mother's words, Priya's face turned into tears. And she said to herself, Enough Priya, this is what was missing. Mom should get a chance to insult me everywhere. Don't say a word now. Otherwise, I don't know how much more insult she will do in front of him. And he will make my life miserable. On the other hand, Vedanta was laughing a lot when she saw Priya's face. But he sat with his laughter in control. Priya's mother said to Vedanta, Son, I want to thank you once again for helping me so much today. Otherwise, I don't know what would have happened to me. Vedanta said very lovingly, Hey auntie, it was my duty. You are like my mother. But from now on, you should be careful while crossing the road. Priya's mother said, Son, you have very good values. Otherwise, where do children these days care so much about a person? After hearing this, Priya worried and asked her mother, What happened, Mom? Are you okay? Her mother said, I went to the temple in the morning. I was crossing the road while coming from there. At that time, a car was coming from the wrong side. I almost got into an accident. At that time, Vedanta saved me. Priya listened to her mother and said, Oh, so he didn't come here to complain about me. Come on Priya, There is nothing to be afraid of now. Thinking this, Priya relaxed and started drinking tea. Vedanta was noticing all her actions carefully. And he understood what she was thinking from her expression. She kept the cup of tea on the table and said, "Yes, auntie, you are right. It's a matter of wisdom. A crazy girl punctured all 4 tires of my car." Priya heard that all the tea in her mouth came out. She started staring at Vedanta. Priya's mother scolded her. "What are you doing? Can't you even drink tea?" Priya got up quickly and said, "Mom, I am going to my room. Maybe my phone is ringing." Saying this, she ran to her room. Her mother shook her head and said, "I don't know what's going on in her mind." Seeing Vedanta's condition, Priya was laughing a lot. She stood up and said, "Okay auntie, I am leaving now. I have some important work." Priya's mother stood up and said, "Okay dear, keep visiting. It was nice meeting you." Vedanta said, "Yes, of course." Saying this, he went out. He came out and sat in the car. And the one who was still in control of his laughter, he started laughing loudly. While laughing, he said to himself, "This girl is a different piece in the whole world. I don't know what she thinks, what she does." Saying this, he started the car and left. What will Priya do now? How will she get rid of Vedanta? What will Ranbir do to forget Mahi's bad memories? To know more, keep listening to Oh Baby, only on Love Pulse Diaries.